Good afternoon, this is Mr. Summers with another lesson on simple division. Today we're going to be working on Chapter 6, Lesson number 4, and this is division using models. Now, in this particular lesson, we'll be using some virtual manipulatives, so you can see them on the desktop, and these are base 10 blocks. They're a virtual version of base 10, so you'll see if you have something like this at home to work with, how we can use them to do our division problems. For these problems, we'll be specifically looking at one today that has a 3-digit number that's being divided by a single-digit number. So this is simple division, and again, we're going to be using our models to show how to do it. So here's problem number 3. This is actually one of the problems in your homework. There are 3 types of fish in a pond. There are a total of 162 fish. There is the same number of each type of fish. How many of each type of fish are in the pond? So there's a couple things there that we can pay attention to. Number one, we know there's 3 types of fish in the pond, okay, so we're going to keep that in mind. There's a total of 162 fish. If we remember back to our vocabulary in division problems, we have in every division number sentence, we're starting with a large number, that's our dividend, and then we divide it by a smaller number, which is our divisor. And what we're trying to get is the answer to the division problem, which is called the quotient. So in this particular problem, they're giving us a dividend, and they're also giving us a divisor, and we'll go over why that's the divisor here in just a moment. But we're looking at the total number of fish. That's the whole big number that we want to start cutting into groups. Now we also are told that there is the same number of each type of fish. That's super important because that's what division is all about, is cutting a large number of things into equally sized groups of, smaller groups of the same things. So the fact that there's the same number of each type of fish in each group tells us this is definitely a division problem. Now, final question here, how many of each type of fish are in the pond? That last question that they ask us is the question that we're trying to get the answer for. And in any division problem, the answer is called the quotient. So after we do all of that division, we're going to end up with that quotient. And that's going to tell us how many of each type of fish are in the pond. All right, so let's get started. We know we have 162 fish, 3 types of fish. Okay, so that's going to be 162 for our total, divided into 3 equal groups. So 162 divided by 3 equals, we'll just say F for fish. We'll use a variable there. 162 divided by 3 equals F. Now, since this lesson was all about using manipulatives and blocks, we're going to go over to our manipulatives here. And to model 162 divided by 3, here's what we're going to do. We'll start with our 100s flat. Okay, so that's equal to 100 of these little tiny blocks right here. So that's 100. And then I also have to model the 60 and the 2. So I'll have my 10s. That's 2 10s, which equals 20. 3 10s, which is 30. 40. 50. 60. I'll put them on here a little bit messy. Let me neaten that up a little so we can see that there are 6 10s, which is equal to 60. And then it's 162, so I need to have my 1s over here. And so I can see that we've modeled that number 162. So now we got to get to dividing it into 3 equal groups. Well, looking at this, I can say, well, all right, 3 equal groups. I can take my 10s and I can say, okay, I'm going to pull my 10s down here into 3 equal groups. I can take these 10s over here, take that 10, take that 10. So splitting my 10s, which was a total of 60, into 3 equal groups was easy because I had just the right number. I could do 2 in each of my 3 groups. But if I look at my 1s over here, I've only got 2 of them. I can't split these guys up. If I try to put this here and I put this here, that's not going to work because that's not fair to this group right here. They don't have a 1. So I'm going to put this up here. We also find the same thing with our 100. I've got 1 of these, so I can't just split that into 3 equal groups. I'm actually going to have to do what's called regrouping, which means this right here, this 100, I got to split it up into its components. By regrouping it, I'm not losing anything. I'm not adding anything. I'm simply changing the way that it is grouped. That's why it's called regrouping. So this right here, I'm going to explode this 100 into 10 tens, because 10 times 10 equals 100. I know if I had 10 of these 10 sticks, that's basically looking at 10 of those sticks all right next to each other to give me 100. So if I go to this and I pop it out into 10 different 10 sticks, now I've got a whole bunch to work with. So I'm going to take, let's see, just like I'm playing a card game, I'm going to start dealing a 10 stick into each one of these groups until I'm out of 10s. So now I've got 3 of those 10s in each group. I'm going to do it again so that I've got 4 of these 10s in each group. So far I'm doing pretty good. And 5 of these 10s in each group. And then I run into a bit of a snag. Well, wait a minute here. I've got a 10 stick and I cannot split that into these groups because there's only one of them, and I'm trying to split it into 3 groups. Well, and I still have that same problem with my 1s over here. But we have a solution for that. I can take this 10 and I can regroup that as well. Instead of saying it's one single 10, I can split it up into 10 single 1 cubes. Now, if I do that and I look at how many cubes I've got now all together with my 1s, I know I just took that 10 and I popped it out into 1s. So I've got a total of 10 of those 1s. And I've got 2 of these 1s that I had before. If I take those 10 and I add those 2, I know I've got a total of 12 1s. Now, again, I'm trying to divide everything I've got into these 3 groups. Thinking back to one of our earlier lessons, I got to think about this 12 and the 3 groups. In other words, 12 divided by 3. And are the 2 numbers, 12 and 3, compatible numbers? If 12 is a multiple of 3, then 12 and 3 are compatible. I think I can actually take these 12 and start dividing those up into these 3 groups, and I should be equal on each of my groups when I'm done with that. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to take this one here, I'm going to put that one there, put that one there. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just taking my blocks and I'm putting one of them into each of my groups, just like I was dealing cards in a card game. Here we go. And one for you. Ooh, this is looking pretty promising. One for you, one for you, and one for you. All right, I've used up every last block that I had. I started off with 162. I did have to regroup a little bit, but it turns out that if I do regroup, I'm able to get every single last one of those blocks into one of my groups here. And remember, I was trying to take that 162 and divide it into three equal groups. And it looks like I did exactly that. If I look at each of these groups, I can see that I've got the same amount in each one. Now let's take a look at one of them and see what I have. I have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. So this is a total of 54, and I can see every other one of my groups here also has 54. So really the answer to my question that I was trying to figure out, 162 divided by 3 equals F, well, that amount of F equals 54. So how many of each type of fish are in the pond? I have 54 of each type of fish. 54 of each one. That's taking 162, dividing it by 3, and using blocks to get the answer, I should say, quotient of 54.